Now recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for your service in such difficult times. We sign up to serve and we don't know what's going to come our way. When I think about what we've been through as a country with a global pandemic, the economy in collapse, and what this Congress was able to do to infuse money to keep our small businesses afloat, critical services available, and making sure that we were in a position for the quickest, strongest recovery in the world. And while we have a lot to feel proud of, we recognize and have had many conversations throughout this committee about the pain points that people are continuing to feel with rising costs. And you touched on this. I really appreciate the discussion around housing in an earlier question, because this is the greatest inflationary costs, especially in Colorado, where we have seen significant home price increases, a lack of supply. People are unable to move because they would go to a much higher interest rate, and then people are unable to buy because they can't afford those mortgage payments. And so while you've talked about recognizing that lowering the interest rates will actually help with addressing the housing crisis, we still have a lack of housing supply. So can you talk a little bit more about what's happening, and that the lower interest rates are only a piece of this?
It's a longer term thing, and a lot of it is it's harder to get lots and zoning and materials and workers, and in many metropolitan areas, the near-in areas are all built up. If you look around Washington, I grew up near Washington, D.C., and it was countryside, just a couple of miles outside the Beltway. There was no Beltway when I was born, but ultimately, it's just we have not enough housing, and that was true before the pandemic, and certainly the pandemic did slow down housing construction. I think we'll get back to a more normal economy with lower interest rates and those sorts of things, but we're still going to have housing shortage.
Absolutely. When I think about the other pieces of the fallout from the global pandemic and the changes that we saw in our economy was in commercial real estate. And I've continued to read about regional bank failures and the risks that the commercial real estate poses in the long term for those assets being on the books for our banks. What is your insight on the risk that it poses for our financial stability, and what we should be thinking about here in Congress?
So the commercial real estate situation, which is it's significantly downtown office and related retail and things like that. This is something the banks have been working their way through for the last couple of years. I think it'll take more time, more years to work all the way through it. We know from the stress tests and from our own work that the large banks they're going to be okay here. Some of the regional banks and smaller banks have what you would expect, which is high concentrations in their local community in real estate. We are aware of those. The banks are aware of it. I think the supervisors have been around those banks, making sure they have capital, they have liquidity, they have a reasonably, not too optimistic assessment of how much capital they'll need, how big the losses will be. So I think we'll be working through this, and it doesn't seem to be a systemic problem or one that threatens broader financial stability. It does threaten bank profitability and those sorts of things, but it'll be with us a while. We'll just keep working our way through it.
And the ability to continue to loan to small businesses because you're being locked up. You are not going to have enough time to answer this question, but my remaining outstanding question is around the recent Chevron ruling, and how you anticipate that impacting the Fed's ability to adjust to the needs of the country and ensure financial stability without being sued at every turn.
We're just looking at all these new decisions, so in its earliest day, I speak under the control of my general counsel, who I don't want to cause him to strike me.
That's how I feel about my staff. I mean, not striking me.
No, but I mean, look, ultimately, we're already very careful at the Fed about keeping within the law. We're really committed to that value, and this ruling doesn't change that. But I think we'll continue to be an institution that's strongly committed to the rule of law.
Great, thank you so much. I yield back.